I'm sitting in this, the Autofull M6 Pro, and this gaming chair looks like any ordinary gaming chair, but it's climate controlled, meaning it can both heat me up when it's cold and cool me down when it's hot. What on earth are they going to think of next? Now, when this first arrived, I thought, oh good, another gaming chair. Surely there's no more innovation in chairs, especially innovation in gaming chairs. Well, considering the aforementioned functionality of the Autofull, I think it's safe to say that I haven't seen everything just yet. But just because they can include something like climate control, does it mean that they should? And hopefully today I'll answer that question. But before we get on to the heating and cooling functionality, let's take a look at Autofull and this chair on the whole. Now, Autofull weren't a brand that I was super familiar with, even though they've been around for over a decade in the gaming industry. This is actually the first time that I'm testing one of their chairs. But straight away, I noticed something very familiar when it comes to the armrests. It would appear that the Autofull M6 Pro actually shares a few bits of the design with the Habada E3. These arms are known as their 6D armrest system, which allows you to move them up, down, in, out, forward, back, along with twisting them on the axis too. But there's also one other movement, and that's pressing this little button on the front to raise the front half up, which at first, when I started testing the Habada E3, I thought was an odd design. Why on earth is it only the front half of the armrest? They don't rise high enough for it to be convenient for getting in and out of the chair, or high enough to make a difference when pushing the chair towards a desk. I just couldn't work it out. But eventually I realised what these were for, and the fact they've included them in this chair makes even more sense, because what they allow you to do is raise them up slightly, and then it supports your arms perfectly when using things like handheld consoles or game controllers, making long gaming sessions more comfortable, because you have your elbow resting at the back and your forearm then resting upwards at the front. When it comes to gaming, it's very clear that the rest of the aesthetic is very much designed as such, with that typical racing style silhouette that has become synonymous with the gaming industry. But this is far from your typical chair. It's obviously got a few things that are typical, such as the ability to recline the chair and raise it up and down using the levers underneath. The base is a solid metal base, and the chassis is made of solid metal too, and on paper it supports weights up to about 175 kilograms, which is a lot heavier than even me at 6'8". But for more advanced adjustment, you've got a dynamic lumbar support in the back, which essentially molds and adapts to your back, along with an adjustment to move it in and out to suit your own body shape. This is perhaps one of the most important factors in comfort and letting you sit for long periods without getting fatigue. I find chairs without adaptable lumbar can sometimes get uncomfortable after just a few hours, whereas designs like this on the Autofull M6 Pro just gives you a lot more support and makes it comfier for longer. Now, what's interesting is that this lumbar is built into a separate section of the chair rather than hidden in the back. And I think this is largely because it offers quite a range of extension, perhaps a little bit more than chairs without this separate design. So it's actually potentially more flexible and adaptable to your own preference over the alternatives. Now, there's another separate section of the chair which might go unnoticed, but one that we're seeing a lot more of in recent years, and that's the addition of the footrest under the chair. I do like this, and I think for people who are smaller than my absolute gigantic 6'8" frame, it'll be ideal. But if you're tall, I would say it's very unlikely that this will get used too much. It's certainly usable, but I think it's a smidgen too short for my legs to offer a long period of reclined comfort. It sort of just braces my calves rather than my legs. But as a whole, you can't deny that on the first glance, you wouldn't necessarily know about the hidden tech, and the biggest thing that makes this anything but your typical gaming chair, which of course is the climate setting. So enough of the whiff-waff, let's get on to the most fun part. And let me start by saying this feature is just wild. For starters, looking at the chair, you'd have absolutely no clue that it's capable of heating and cooling. It looks, and for all intents and purposes, feels just like any other gaming chair. You can't feel there's any difference even sitting in it. But the two little telltale signs that something is different is the fact there's a USB cable on the back and a couple of extra buttons that aren't too dissimilar to something you might find on an electric car seat. But there is a lot more if you take a closer look. For starters, the seat base isn't completely smooth. It's got lots of little perforations in it to make it porous. This is useful for the heating and cooling, and you'll see why in a second, but it also makes it more breathable. So if you're one of those masochists who like to sit butt naked on your PU chair during the summer, just so you can feel the bare skin of your arse peel away from the pleather every time you move, you're going to be disappointed because by design it's already cooler. But what makes it even more cooler is something hidden on the underside of the base, which is accessible through a little hatch on the underside. You'll notice the inclusion of small fans built into the body, which helps circulate the air around and out of the perforations, providing a light breeze around your buttocks, even on the most sweatiest of days. It doesn't actually lower the temperature in a literal sense. At the end of the day, this chair hasn't got an aircon unit or fridge built into it. Although if you're watching this Autofull, there's an idea for your next version. But all it does is create a breezy circulation of air that has the effect of cooling you down, the same as sticking a regular fan on your face has. It helps to wick away the heat from you. And there's 3 settings of speed too, ranging from Chilly Willy to Breezy Baubles. And yes, I did just make those cooling ratings up. They're not the official terms, but they should be. Now, although the fan won't actually cool the air, the heating functionality will actually warm you up, because hidden in the base are 2 large heating pads that can only be described as being similar to a heated seat in your car. And given that it's been snowing for the past couple of days, I can safely say that it's utterly luxurious. Honestly, it feels super opulent that my gaming and office chair is heated, and no one would ever know by looking at it. I literally feel like the envy of the town when it's cold. I mean, even the throne of the king isn't heated. Or at least I don't think it is. But just to show you how good this chair is, this is the chair through a thermal camera without having been sat in and with the heating on the chair off. And you can see the radiator is super warm next to it, and the chair is essentially the same ambient temperature. But this is with the heating pads on. Just look at those 2 pads roaring away with heat, up to about 40 degrees as well, almost as hot as the radiator next to it. How cool is that? Or not cool? I should probably say how hot is that, because cool. Anyway, it's super impressive that the heated pads turn the temperature of the seat base to that high, and essentially with no one sat in it as well. Could be potentially warmer when your bum is in contact with it to help increase and disperse the heat. Toasty. Honestly, this is absolutely wild, and I think at first I was a bit skeptical on how good it would be or whether I need it, but I'm telling you right now, I do need it. I really do, and now I want it in every chair that I own. I've tasted the forbidden fruit, and I want more. Now, to power the chair, you use the included USB cord, but small point here, a very small point indeed, the cable is comically tiny. You are not, and I repeat, not plugging this into any wall outlets and sitting on the chair doing your business. I can assure you that. But it did eventually dawn on me why it's so small, and that's because I don't think you're supposed to plug it into a wall outlet at all. If you also look at the back, there's a little pocket like the pocket of a kangaroo. The small cable and addition of the rear pocket shows that this can and probably should be powered by power banks. And actually the small cable starts to kind of make sense because you don't need masses and masses of cables to reach this pocket. A large 20,000 mAh capacity power bank like this goes in the back fine, even if you end up like me with quite a large bulge. Now, when you do this, it means that your chair is essentially untethered and it's still powered, and you can zip around your room at leisure without the fear of a long USB cable wrapping around your child's neck as you fly over to get the whiskey you've left on the other side of the room. Of course, this still opened the question for me. Can I use it plugged into a wall outlet if I use one of those cables that's male to female? And more importantly, if I did that, would it set fire to my house? And believe me, I found out the answer. It works. If you absolutely wanted to do that, you can do. But get a large enough power bank, and you shouldn't really need to because it powers it for hours and hours. Since I started testing this, I haven't actually ran out of charge on my battery yet, so I can't really give a definitive answer to how long it will last, but it will use more charge on the heating mode rather than the cooling mode, I can say that. Now, when it comes to the price, this is not cheap. I say time and time again that I'll never be comfortable with the price of office, desk and gaming chairs. The prices are eye-watering for what they are, but this has to be the most technology of any chair that I've ever tested. So I feel the price is somewhat justified with the Autofull M6 Pro. I certainly feel like you're getting more for your money. And the amount of money you'll be spending, or at least its RRP, and it always helps to say this a bit faster, is £799. As always though, that's the RRP, and it may be that there's a discount on the product, just like there was when I was writing this episode, because let's face it, products only appear at their RRP for a total of 15 minutes a year, so it's always worth checking out the link in the description for the current price. You never know, you might be surprised. Now, there's only a couple of other things that I think Autofull could potentially improve in a future version. I'd love to see more heating elements throughout the chair. As it is, it's only in the seat base, so whilst your bottom gets the royal spa treatment, my back is feeling left out. And I can imagine if they managed to create a heated lumbar support, then they could actually be super useful for people who suffer back pain, as well as being generally good in the heating element, or even for women when they have monthly women problems. I can imagine it being quite soothing on the back. I mean, I'm being super greedy here because this has got more heating than anything I've tested before, but it's something that I thought might have been a good idea. Maybe the nature of the lumbar support prevents this, I don't know. But lastly, I would love to see an M6 Pro a little bit cheaper and without the included footrest. Now, I'm sure there's lots of people that will love the footrest, but I'm equally sure that some people will never use it, especially if you're a Gigantosaurus like me. So if they offered a model with the heating and cooling, but without the footrest for, let's say, 100 of the king's pounds less, that would have been the one that I would have chosen. But other than those two things, this chair is a technological marvel. Not because the technology is new or groundbreaking, but because this is the first time that I've tested a chair which has married concepts from other industries, like the automotive industry, with the cooled and heated seats, and applied that to the gaming and office chair industry. And for all intents purposes, have blended it so well that you can't even tell it's there. I'm totally here for that. I think it's some fantastic innovation, not necessarily one that you need, but one that once you've tried it, you'll find it hard to live without. I think as a chair in its own right, even if you remove the glitzy climate control gubbins, I still think it stands up on its own against other heavyweights in the category. It's well made, the materials feel nice, and I think the supportive armrests are a deal breaker for gamers who want extra support. So overall, I'm actually really impressed by the Autofull M6 Pro, and it's the first gaming style chair that I've tried from a different brand in a long while that I've truly enjoyed testing. So well done, Autofull. I'm really looking forward to trying out more of your innovations. What do you guys think of the Autofull M6 Pro? Are the climate controls a gimmick, or can you see them being truly useful like they are for me right now? Because throughout this episode, as I said, I've been sat here with the heating on and it's been bloody splendid. But let us all know what you think in the comments below, and if you enjoyed today's episode and you found it helped you decide if the Autofull M6 Pro is for you or not, I would appreciate if you return the favour and hit that thumbs up and that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys back for another episode of STU'S Reviews soon.